Good day, fellow deal makers. Welcome to the Deal Scout. On today's show, we're going to talk about doing deals online and all the trouble you could get into if you do it the wrong way. So we're going to have a conversation with an attorney. He's going to talk to us all about the things you might be doing that could get you in a lot of trouble on YouTube or podcasting and such like that. Mr. Gordon, welcome to the show.
Hey, Josh, nice to meet you. Nice to be here with you, and hope we can provide some valuable information to you and your audience.
Yeah, man. All right. So how long have you been doing entertainment law? Give us a brief background, set the stage for your background and your experience, and then we'll dive into some subjects.
Well, sure. As you mentioned, I'm an entertainment, media, and business lawyer, and I've been practicing for 30 years. Before that, I actually was involved in the production side of the businesses, starting out very young. Actually, when I was very little, I got excited about theater and became a sound guy doing stuff like that through high school and college. And in college, shifted into the radio, TV, and film end of things, and sort of my interest in entertainment has colored everything. And when I went to law school, it was pretty obvious what direction I was going in. And so out I came into a tough legal marketplace and hung out a shingle of my own very early on. And that's now been 29 of those 30 years in practice.
Wow. All right. So you're West Coast, right?
Yeah, Los Angeles.
Okay. Good. So you're in the epicenter of entertainment, being there and representing people and such. So when you decided, entertainment, right? Because your background in theater and such, and you got out into the real world, and what was that like, getting out of college with your bar card and diving in, starting to want to represent people and stuff? How did that work?
Because I had been in that business already, I knew a lot of people from my work in the field. So my earliest clients were either those people or people they sent me. And it was a lot of, whatever came over the transom was what I was doing at the time. So I was doing collection cases. I was doing, just really little disputes with people. I did some big litigation as well. Hated litigation. So I have been a deal maker for most of my career, much more interested in being an advisor, and advise and counsel and guide clients through the process from setup, startup to sometimes sale, or sometimes closing the business, whatever it is. We lawyers have a lot to say about it. And entertainment law is really an interesting sort of amalgam of legal areas. We have to know a little bit about a lot, and a lot about things like copyrights and trademarks and business transactions and private financing and some of those kinds of things. So it's an interesting blend of stuff.
Yeah. Amalgam. What a great word. What the heck does that mean?
An amalgam is where you throw a bunch of crap together in one bowl and call it a thing.
Cool. I like it. All right. So you got your start, and you found that litigation wasn't specifically for you. Now, in entertainment law, movie stars and all sorts of entertainers, I guess, that you represent, sure, what kind of litigation occurs in Hollywood or LA?
Well, you see claims of copyright infringement almost every single day. Someone is suing somebody over, hey, that was you based your movie on my script. Or you might have heard about Katy Perry getting sued over her song Dark Horse because some different songwriter claimed he wrote, a couple of lyrics from that. Taylor Swift has been accused of stealing the phrase player's gonna play, things like that. Lots of cases of breach of contract. Lots of people feel that they're owed money and haven't been properly paid, or they get fired from, all kinds of disputes that come up. Also the breakups between partnerships and collaborations and things like that. So it can get messy really fast.
So without getting too specific or giving away any secret stuff, what was the silliest thing you've ever seen in Hollywood?
Silliest thing
law, where you're like, I cannot believe we're actually doing this.
I've seen situations where an actor got upset because they showed up at the set for the movie, and their trailer wasn't parked close enough to the set, so they refused to go to work. And then the producers, just ego-driven stuff that really has no bearing on the actual work, and just ends up giving people a bad reputation for being a diva, or
Yeah.
something like that.
I told you, no brown M&Ms in my M&M jar. That kind of
That's
thing.
actually a really interesting story, and I'll tell you that years and years ago, it was Van Halen was Van.
Yep.
I worked on a rock show I was just a roadie. I was a kid at the time. I was the one that was assigned to pick the brown M&Ms out of the
Yeah.
bowl. So years later, I'm in law school, and we're talking to the lawyer who actually drafted that aspect of the contract, and he explained that it was actually the canary in the coal mine scenario.
Yeah.
The band knew that if they saw brown M&Ms in the bowl, or the band's management knew if they saw brown M&Ms in the bowl, that meant that the folks putting on the show hadn't read the contract very carefully, and all the safety requirements and all the other things that might have let slip by also. So that was sort of the red flag that, hey, we got to look closely at everything.
Isn't that cool? What a great idea. So, but you were the picker.
On that particular situation, yeah.
So
And it
to
was me
this,
with my grubby hands in this bowl of M&Ms. It was really ridiculous. I
so
hope nobody ate
so
them.
Van Halen and his team ate M&Ms from your fingertips, essentially.
Anything's possible.
Oh my gosh, what a great,
Eddie passed away last year. I hope it had nothing to do with my grubby fingers.
no connection, no
Right.
connection. Right. Oh, that's so good. To this day, like if you get a bag of M&Ms, like will you be like, I'm not eating the brown ones? Like they're just your years of brown M&M picking.
It has never occurred to me to worry about it.
Okay. Well, every time I eat a brown M&M, I'm gonna think of you. Okay.
Okay.
That's kind of weird. You probably no one has ever told you that. I'm sure in
Oh.
your lifetime. Okay. I'm the first. All right. So, back to deals. Okay. So you decided that you're actual, better deal maker, and you wanted to get in the process of making more deals and instead of litigation. Why the shift, and what did that look like?
Well, when you're in litigation, everything is adversarial. Everybody is always angling for some, how can I win? How can this be a win for me and a loss for you? And when you're in the transactional side of things, it's much more collaborative. Let's make it win-win. At least most of the time. Sometimes there's win-lose negotiations as well. And I just found that when I was doing litigation, I think I was pretty good at it. I worked at a small litigation boutique firm for a while. Didn't really like myself when I got home at the end of the day. And I couldn't just turn off that, being everything was a controversy or a conflict. And that's not good for personal relationships. So I, credit to the guys who can, the women who can turn it all off and just be a normal person when they're done with the day. That wasn't me. So
Yeah. Did
I
you walk
recognized it
around
and
like
got out pretty quickly. What's
you were
that?
just like litigating everything to your wife or your partners or people
Oh,
like your
I
the
didn't
dog
have
pees
one
on
of
your
those
yard?
at the time, and that was part of the reason.
Okay, got you. Dog pees in your yard. I'm suing you, and you're like, okay,
Right.
I gotta change focus over here. All right, so when it comes to entertainment law, the deal maker, like what kind of deals do you like today?
I really love to help creative entrepreneurs, professionals with getting their messages out and sharing something of value to the world. And entertainment has value. Sometimes it's got a powerful and important message. Sometimes it's just light entertainment, but even that has value. It keeps us, uh, having a good time, and it's good for everybody. So my reward comes from seeing my clients share their messages, get their ideas and thoughts out to the world, and staying safe doing it. Being avoiding those litigation scenarios, and being able to hopefully make a nice generous profit from it.
We do like making money as deal makers. Now, before we go into details of copywriting and trademarks, and ask you, because I actually asked you, some questions about some things that I'm working on. But before we go there, let's ask a semi-personal question, because you grew up in the arts, in theater and such. If you could be in any movie, right, as a co-star, right, like any movie, of the past, and you get to be in the movie, go back and transplant yourself in the movie, what movie would that be and why?
I'm such a Star Wars fan. I think
Uh-oh, you muted.
yeah, I was saying I'm such a Star Wars fan. I think I'd have to be in one of the Star Wars films. I'm not sure I care whether I'd be on the Rebel side or the Empire side. It would being Darth Vader's sidekick wouldn't be too bad, or
Right.
whatever.
That'd be awesome, man.
Or I
What
could
would
run around swinging a lightsaber, I think.
do you know how to use a sword?
No.
Okay. Who knows? Like when I meet
A
people on
few
podcasts,
fencing lessons when I was younger, but nothing
so you
serious.
do know how to use a sword. All right. So back to deals with when it comes to copyright, trademarks, and other things, we see these terms all day long, but many of us may not even know what the heck that means. Why don't you give us an idea of what these different things mean and how
Okay.
we might be stepping on them?
Okay. So intellectual property, we'll start with there. That's sort of the umbrella term that covers things like patents, which covers inventions. If you invent a unique or sort of a new, better mousetrap, design a system, a process, that can be covered by patent law. It doesn't come up much in my world. Trademarks are distinctive brands, phrases or symbols and things like that become the brand. So, think of the swoosh on a sneaker.
Yeah.
Indicates that this comes from Nike. That's what trademarks purposes are. Red triangle on a box of cookies or crackers tells you Nabisco. The polo on a shirt tells you it's coming from Ralph Lauren, right? That's what trademarks do. They identify the source or origin of goods and services. So when you have a product or a brand and you want to build it up, you try to protect that by registering your trademarks and things like that. Copyright protects works of original authorship. So when you sit down and write something, record a song, make a video, record a podcast episode, shoot a film, carve a sculpture, paint on a canvas, all those things, that original expression is protected by copyright, which gives the owner, the author of that work, the exclusive right to make copies, distribute them, make things based on it, derivative works we call that, or display and perform the work in public. And that is a way that the Constitution, when it was written, included a provision giving Congress the power to protect these kinds of things so that it would advance the art and science of authorship and invention, those kinds of things. We want to be able to make money from these things as an incentive for doing them in the first place. So we're going to protect it, but it's for a limited amount of time, the different lengths of time for each of the different kinds of works. But at some point we want to be able to stand on the shoulders of the giants that have come before us and build new things and create new stuff. So it's a balancing act.
Yeah. So, for example, you see like the Beatles, they have done some incredible work, but that's 50 years ago. Or even Michael Jackson, he has the Happy Birthday song, right? That I think is hit. And I might be completely
a little bit of a misconception. It wasn't Michael Jackson, and the courts recently ruled, a couple of years ago now, ruled that the Happy Birthday song copyright is long expired.
Okay. So I could now sing it to my kids now without getting in trouble.
You could even sing it on your podcast if you really think your audience would like that.
They probably would not like that. But I haven't told my kids happy birthday because the fear of getting in trouble. No, just kidding.
Yeah, for he's a jolly good fellow is a good standby.
Yeah, I always say that, boys and girls. So as you're going through this, you're working with copyrights, trademarks, and you say you don't see a lot of patents that come across your plate.
Yeah.
What's a day-to-day look like for you? Are you like scrolling through YouTube all day long, for your clients, looking for people screwing up, or what's your day look like?
I'm at a pretty high pay grade to be spending my time doing that kind of thing. My clients, I don't think they'd want to pay the hourly rate for for that kind of work.
Right.
My role is really, as I said, it's advise and counsel is, I'd say, better than half of what I spend my time doing. Client will call up with a question or concern, or, hey, I have this idea. What do I have to be aware of, or how do I make this happen? And it's my job to help them figure out a strategy that works the legal angles of things. And then it's to draft the necessary documents, file the necessary government documents, government filings, and things like that, and just navigate the process so that the client can focus on being creative or making whatever it is they're making, and not have the worry that something's going to come out of the woodwork from left field. And way to mix a metaphor, right? Something's gonna happen that derails the project. So
yeah. Now I've worked on things before. I think I put a YouTube video up. I put probably a couple hundred videos up over the years, and one of them came back where they said you're infringing on someone's, I think it was copyright.
Hmm.
And I had to pull down the thing, and I was just like, I didn't know. I think I had maybe my radio playing in the background, or something like that, and I didn't even know, right? And I didn't
Yeah.
even know, so I had to pull down the video and to try to remove that audio, but it kind of ruined the video that I was trying to share.
Mhm.
Nobody was probably even watching it, to be honest, at the time.
Yeah.
But what kind of things do you see for producing like YouTube videos or even these podcasts that you see that us deal makers might be getting ourselves into trouble?
Well, one thing is to really make sure you're controlling the environment you're in so that that radio playing in the background isn't uh, going to represent that kind of a problem. If you're going to be making content of any kind, control that environment, be mindful and aware of every little thing that's going into it so that you don't have an issue with somebody claiming something of mine made its way into your program, or you didn't get my permission to use my likeness. You're shooting video or film out and about. There are rules about whether or not someone walking by in the background or those kinds of things can be used. The good news is it's not as complicated as it might sound. The bad news is you do have to think about these things. Of course, when you start talking about companies and brands and products, you have to ask questions about, are we infringing on a trademark, or are we somehow disparaging the brand that we're talking about? Truthfulness is usually a defense in those situations, but that's something else. Got to be Truthfulness is really important. Actually, we don't want to be getting into false information about people or companies, because that's defamatory, libel, or slander. Privacy is another concern that comes up sometimes when you're recording people and publishing interviews or other interactions with people, things like that. Um, those are the sort of high points, for at least for the content creation side of things. When you get into entrepreneurship and selling products and things like that, you have to, again, concerns about brands, concerns about who owns it in the first place. Did you lock up all the rights to the thing? If you have someone who helped you create the product, and you got to have contracts, deals, and that's another aspect of things, is just having your team properly structured and documented. Whether they're employees or independent contractors can be a big issue. Make sure you've got it figured out and documented properly.
Yeah. So how did when creating a podcast, you have a podcast. Why don't you
Yeah.
give us a shout out to your podcast, kind of give us an idea of what the things you talk about, because then I have some questions about specifically podcasting.
Okay. So the show is called Entertainment Law Update. It's me and a co-host, a lawyer named Tamara Bennett, who lives in the Dallas, Fort Worth area. She's a music lawyer. I'm a film, TV, and theater guy, and we're both dabbling in this new technology. We're both working in the new media and digital media arena as well. And we get together once a month and we record about an hour-long roundup of the entertainment law cases and news stories that have come up in the past month. And so we do, our particular style is to do a lot of advanced preparation and very little editing on the back end. So we record, you'll sometimes hear us, just fumble over something, and we just leave it in.
Yeah.
That's our sort of style. And so it's like live news in a sense.
Fumbling is my style too. I fumble a lot on these shows. But all right, so you guys talk about music, TV, film, podcasting, even
Yeah,
YouTube,
we talk about
even?
all. I'm sorry. Yeah, we talk about all of that. We talk about a lot about copyrights and trademarks, and again, the court decisions often that impact these areas aren't always related to movies and television and film and theater and stuff like that, but they have an impact on it. And so we're sort of watching for the big cases that, like one that we're going to be talking about on the show we recorded this week. It deals with a clothing manufacturer, H&M, the H&M stores. They sued Unicolor, which is another clothing manufacturer. And it came down to whether or not they had properly registered the copyright for one of their particular fabric designs that was infringed. And the Supreme Court ruled on it a few weeks ago. So we'll be talking about that.
Nice.
But you can have that has an impact on anybody who ever registers a copyright. So
Wow, yeah, absolutely. With music,
yeah.
on podcast shows, like I wanted to create a cool music theme for one of my shows. And if you listen to the beginning of my episodes, I currently don't have any music because I started reading all these things about like royalty free and this kind of free, and then how many downloads do you have? I'm like, I don't know, So like,
Yeah,
it asked me 100 questions, and finally, I just decided no freaking music for now.
right.
Like so. Is that the correct approach of just going, man? It seems complicated. I'm staying far away from that
Well,
crap.
it's certainly the path of sort of least resistance,
Yeah.
but it does have an impact on your artistic vision for your show, your creative vision. So, yeah, I mean, the issue is that someone who wrote that song is entitled to get, to say yes or no and to have a license issued or not when somebody wants to use that composition in their whatever their production is. Likewise, someone who recorded a version of that song with permission, usually, there's a copyright in that recording as well. So you actually have two copyrights when it comes to music. Then if you want to use it in certain ways, like streaming over the internet is different than if it was recorded and downloaded. So we've got a bunch of different rights and a bunch of different kinds of use, all sort of tied up in these two copyrights. And so podcast music in particular is really challenging because of this sort of four-stop shopping you have to do.
Yeah.
It's not traditional radio, it's not television, and it's not, you can't just do a radio show like the disc jockeys do and play music and talk about it and then move on to the next one. That just is very hard and expensive to do right now. So
Yeah.
the best solution, if you want to use a piece of music in a production that you're making, and it doesn't have to be the Rolling Stones or the Beatles or whatever, there's lots of good production music out there that you can buy, usually on a single, lots of different approaches. One's needle drop, where you just pay for the song the one time you're going to use it. If you're looking for an opening or closing piece for everything, there are some where you have to buy a different kind of a license. But again, the royalty free just means that you're not paying every single episode. And then, the best solution for some of these situations is to hire someone to write and record the music for you. A 15 or a 30-second intro for your podcast probably doesn't cost that much to get something that's custom tailored for your show from a composer who's looking for a way to feed himself this week.
Yeah,
So,
okay, let's just say I commission a piece of art, and
mhm,
it's a 15 to 30-second intro. And so I reach out to an artist and I say, hey, I see you have some music to what I
mhm,
want. Produce this. And then they say, okay, it's $100.
mhm.
Cool. What should I ask them? So make sure that it's original, right? But
Yeah,
then do I have free will to use this however I want, right?
that depends on the negotiation between you and the composer. If the contract is set up the way I would prefer, it would have a clause in there that says the work is work made for hire. That means that you own it once you've paid for, they deliver it, you own it. But depending on how much you're paying, the composer might not feel like it's a good deal,
Right.
in which case they would give you a license. And as long as that's a perpetual, all territories worldwide in perpetuity kind of a license, again, you're free to do with it whatever the license allows. So you might be able to use it in your show, but you probably couldn't make a film and incorporate it there, or release it on an album or something like that. So
Yeah. So work made for hire is the best
magic
way to approach it.
copyright language. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So when I go commission my intro,
Yeah.
that sounds so fancy, right? Like you're teaching me some big words and some lawyer speak.
And that's
Now,
actually what the Copyright Act uses. It says when a work is specially commissioned
yep.
for inclusion in certain kinds of things, if the contract says it's a work made for hire, then the ownership shifts to the commissioning party from the very beginning.
Cool. So I know some lawyer speak. One of my mentors, he was an attorney, and he taught me a Latin phrase. It's "Podex profectus est."
Oh, you stumped me.
Yeah, it means he was talking about a judge, and it
Uh-huh.
means he's a perfect asshole. That's the only, like, I want to sound smart every once in a while, so I'll throw out a Latin phrase. The only one I know is a cuss word. All right.
I had a teacher in high school. He was the drama teacher, and on his clipboard he had a little sticker that said "Non illegitimi carborundum." Don't let the bastards grind you down.
Oh, yeah. Oh, that's so good. Yeah, awesome, awesome, awesome. Yeah, it's so good, man. So as you're doing things, you've got your own podcast show. You're very active in the podcast community that I'm
Yeah.
in. I see you posting all the time, sharing this. What's the future look like for you? You've been doing this for 30 years. Like, where do you see yourself? You and I are hanging out 15. How old are you? I should ask you that.
I'm 56.
Okay, cool.
So
So 14 years from now, you and I are hanging out together. You're going to be 70. I can't do math in my head like that, but
something less
50,
than 70.
54-ish, yeah. When we're hanging out,
Yeah.
those years later, what's life going to look like for you think?
Well, I'm still going to be paying for my kids' college because we got a late start with the family thing. But so I expect I'll still be working. I hope I'm not working quite as hard and intensely as I do these days. And I'm hoping that some of my passive income initiatives are at least a little less active and more passive in the generation of revenue. But I love what I do. I love working with creative people and being an advisor and a trusted advisor, confidant kind of a person. So that's really rewarding to me. And most important, I think, is, like I said, getting messages out, because I think that speech and conversation is the way societies and cultures advance through, art and literature and film and television, all these things. It leaves traces and shows us the path forward as well.
Yeah, super cool. When dealing with podcasters specifically, what's a tip and then maybe a warning for podcasters out there?
It's sort of they go together. The tip is, I think that it's really incumbent on every podcaster, even if you're not trying to make it your business and make money from your podcast directly, to be professional. Taking a professional approach to what you're doing. Podcasters, in my experience, a lot of podcasters are very focused on the quality of the sound, right? You and I are both sitting here with these, highfalutin microphones connected to our systems. We want it to sound good. We want to have great content. We want to have good numbers in terms of downloads and people hearing what we're saying and all of that. And yet they don't do the paperwork. They don't get the legal stuff in order. And so being professional has to extend to the back office as well. Having a good business structure in place, at least having thought through what your business structure is, having your team lined up and in place properly so that you're covered and ownership belongs to the right people and things like that. Having an intellectual property strategy, and if you're interested in it, having a monetization strategy and the right contracts, the right relationships, and the right approach to that is all a sign, or they're all signs of professionalism. And the fact of it is, the folks who are going to pay you, how often, every once in a while, you probably buy something on Etsy and you give someone, a hobbyist or an amateur, a little something. But most of the time when you buy something or spend your money, you want to know that you're buying it from reputable people who know what they're doing and, who are professional about things.
Sure.
So same goes here.
With money strategies, monetization, you've been working in media for a long time. What are some ways that you've seen, maybe some, everyone has the I'll get 1 million listeners and then I'll get this show is sponsored by whatever, right? Fill in the blank.
Yeah.
Michael Jackson's, Happy Birthday to You song, right? Or Brown M&Ms.
Mm-hmm.
But other than just those ad drops, what have you seen in terms of monetization strategies that were interesting to you?
There's lots of different ways to monetize a podcast or really any kind of media content. Advertising is the sort of obvious one that everybody sees and thinks about it. We're pretty conscious of it. My show, I don't consider it a monetization strategy, but it's a positioning strategy. When somebody goes and searches for my name, they see my podcast, they hear me talking about it, they hear the smile in my voice, they understand that I'm an expert in what I'm talking about, and that positions me in a way that is useful for my marketing and eventually sales or client engagements. So that's one approach. You can use a podcast to position yourself and to drive traffic or business to your primary business. You don't need sponsors because you essentially are the sponsor. You can get involved. Again, this depends on having a bigger audience, but you can become an affiliate for other people's products and services, basically commission sales. So every time you mention their product and how to buy it, or where to go to find it, or doing what do you call it, an unboxing or a review of a particular product, you can make a little money from everybody who sees it and then follows the link and looks it up and buys it on Amazon or wherever. There are paid podcasts. You can actually have a subscription-based podcast. That's one way to do it. Smaller audience can be monetized in that way if they are intensely interested in what you're doing and you're giving them really good content. It may not be a subject that's interesting to everybody out in the world, but if you get a few hundred people each paying, I don't know, a few $100s a year, that adds up to real money, right? So that's one way. Those are the big ones. Sponsorships, affiliate. Yeah, I think we've hit the high points.
Yeah, man. When it comes to doing business online, what are some areas, what other things could trip us up and get us into some type of issue or legal action?
Well, anybody who is operating a website needs to have a privacy policy. They should have a terms of service document. That's not technically required. The privacy policy is legally required in some states and several countries. So just do it. Have a good solid privacy policy. It should comply with the California Privacy Act, the CCPA, and the GDPR, which is the European General Data Protection Regulation, or something like that. Forgotten the exact acronym. Anyway, GDPR. You remember a few years ago, everybody was getting all these emails saying, hey, you got to resubscribe or reauthorize.
Yeah.
That was all because GDPR went into effect. And it's hard because people have to opt in and you got some hoops to jump through. But you should have a privacy policy. Terms of service is essentially your contract with everybody who visits the site. And what's allowed and what's not allowed with people who visit the site, whether they become customers or not. You want to have that. Should have customer agreements of some sort. It can sometimes be included in the terms of service. If you purchase from us, then these terms will apply. Or it can be on the sales page or the shopping cart page or something, but you want to have those things clearly. Refund policy. This is a big one. Lots of folks who do business online get burned when the customer cancels the payment plan in the middle of, I'm signing up for a $5,000 course and I'm going to pay you $500 a month for the next 10 months. And then in month 3, they just say, yeah, it's not for me. I'm going to stop paying. It was a $5,000 purchase, but they only paid $1,000, So if you have a solid refund policy, that helps you dealing with the credit card company, dealing with, or whatever.
Oh, bro.
Yeah, right.
Struck a chord there. That happened to me once, right?
Yeah.
So I had an online coaching program and someone dropped $7,500. And then it was like the day before I fulfilled the agreement. The guy wasn't showing up, whatever. Terrible client. I should have fired him and given him his money back earlier on rather than just let it go. The day before, he called PayPal and he said, hey, I didn't get what I paid for. They took the money out of my account, boom, $7,500. I was like, you got to be kidding me.
Yeah.
So that could happen because I did not have proper agreement or refund policy in place.
Yeah. So evidence that it was a single price paid in installments rather than a recurring. Yeah, those kinds of things. Disclaimers is another thing. If you're doing business online, things like financial earnings disclosure stuff, these results are not typical is one kind of a disclaimer that you want. Certainly if you're offering what might be construed as legal or medical or health advice or something, or diet and nutrition kinds of things, you got to have some disclaimers that deal with that. Certainly in the deal space, if you're giving investment kind of advice, you got to say, hey, we're not investment advisors. We're not here to give you this investment advice. We're sharing information. Use it as you want, at your own risk. All those kinds of things are really important for just carving out the boundaries of the relationship that you have with your customer, your listener, your visitor, whatever.
Yeah. Do you offer these services to write these disclaimers, privacy policies, do audits, make sure terms of agreement, client agreements refund policy, all that crap. Do you do all that as a part of your business?
Yeah. In fact, if you don't mind, I'll tell you a little bit about the way I think of my business. It's a
Yeah.
company, not just a law firm, but it's a company that serves these kinds of creative entrepreneurs and professionals. We provide training and coaching and masterminds and consulting, as well as the done for you legal services, so that they can achieve their dreams, grow their businesses, that kind of thing. And we provide tools and templates and instructions for some of the kinds of things as well. So whether you're a do-it-yourselfer or you want it done for you, we've got something to offer. And yes, digital online entrepreneurs is a chunk of our clientele, not just podcasters and YouTubers. Although the content folks are fun, but I enjoy working with anybody who's got a creative angle on their business.
Yeah. So one of my favorite things to do on my shows is ask a question from a deck of cards. I've got some
Great.
cards with questions on it, because then it throws complete random and destiny into the show. So you tell me when to stop.
Stop.
All right, here, sir, is your question. If you could go back and give your parents advice on how to raise you, like when you were a kid, what would you tell them specifically?
Wow, that's a great question.
See, I couldn't come up with that. I had to read it off a card.
I think I would encourage them to encourage me more to pursue my dreams and be less concerned about academic achievement, degrees and things. I mean, you get good grades, yes, but I don't know that I would have become a lawyer if I had it to do over again. I think I probably wouldn't. I was having fun doing theater and film and TV, and I was pretty good at the stuff that I was doing as a sound engineer. And I think I could have had a very nice career doing that instead of what I'm doing. No regrets about what I am doing, but it would have been a very different trajectory.
So do you think you'd be composing or more editing, putting things like what would you think?
I was a sound guy in theater. I loved being behind that mixing console while the show was unfolding in front of me, and I was mixing the microphones and making sure the sound effects happened at the right time and that we didn't hear people when they were off stage, and all that kind of stuff. And it's an art and a science, and it was a lot of fun. And I actually kept doing it for a long time into my adult legal career, just sort of keep my hand in and enjoy it for fun. And then, kids and family and other responsibilities, I had to say goodbye to that. But I always loved it. And I sort of, part of me wishes I'd kept at that and made that my focus of my career.
Awesome. So when it comes to podcasting, you've got a podcast show, you do a lot of guest appearances and such. Give us an idea of the equipment that you like to use. What's some of your favorite equipment?
Well, I love this microphone I'm talking into now. It's the Shure MV7. I think you and I are on the same gear.
I got the same one, yeah.
And for something like this, for a Zoom call or a podcast where I'm a guest, I'm just going straight into the computer using the USB connection. And I think it sounds great. It's got that software that allows us to shape the sound a little bit. But when I'm recording my own podcast, I use a Rodecaster Pro, which is a mixing and recording console that has a bunch of sound effects and other things. And I'm really able to produce the whole show in there live and have a finished file when I'm done. And, everything connects up to a MacBook Pro. I'm thinking about getting a Mac Mini. The new M1s are pretty slick. I use editing software, Adobe Audition, or sometimes just Audacity when I need to do some editing of something. For video, it's a relatively inexpensive Logitech webcam, and that also is just connected up to the computer. And if you're doing live video or you want to record really high quality stuff with graphics and things changing, camera angles and things, the Ecamm Live software on the Mac is beautiful and fantastic.
And Ecamm? I'm not
Ecamm Live is what it's called. Yeah.
Ecamm Live. I'll check that out. What does that allow you to do?
Well, it allows you to connect live to Facebook or LinkedIn or YouTube or whatever and have live sessions. It allows you to do multi-cameras and bring in graphics and screen shares and things like that, all from, with the push of a button. And so it's sort of like back in the days when I was doing television production, we had these $100,000 consoles that would allow us to switch cameras and do fades and things like that. And Ecamm is a $40 product on your computer that you push a button and it happens. The technology's come a long way.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm going to check that out because I've used OBS for live production and such like
OBS
that.
is great too, and it's free.
Yeah.
If you've got it and it's working, I wouldn't necessarily make a change. But if you're on a Mac,
or
Ecamm is too.
Ecamm. Okay. Yeah, I'll check that out. Ecamm Live. What about headphones? I noticed that you have in-ear monitors, right?
Yeah.
What
So
kind do you use?
I'm actually using a really cheap solution
Yeah.
because I have to hear you, but we're not recording this sound. So what I have in my ear is actually designed for like walkie-talkie radios. It's
Yeah.
just a little earpiece connected up behind my back to a wire coming basically out of the back of this microphone. And I think it's sort of similar to what you've got going.
Yeah, I've got they're like a guitarist
Yeah.
wraparound, but yours, I can't even see it. You look like a Secret Service guy.
Yeah, that's the coiled, and the little speaker is back here rather behind me, and it's just using air to get it into my ear. Then the advantage is that's this little clear little tube that just goes behind my ear. You can't see it. So when I'm recording video, I like to use this. Otherwise, I have a pair of Source Audio, big fat headphones.
Yeah.
That give me a better quality sound, but they don't look as good on camera. So.
Yeah. Now you look great, buddy. You look great.
Oh,
so
I do my own hair.
For those listening in, he does not have any hair. I'm sure you got
shaved head.
Shaved head. Yeah, it looks great. So let's ask this. As we're going through this interview, one, where's a place for people to connect with you and maybe do a deal with you?
Well, my main law firm website and blog is at firemark.com. My last name, Firemark. There's more stuff at gordonfiremark.com, which takes you in the direction of some of the products and forms and templates and things like that. And the podcast is called Entertainment Law Update, and you can find me on YouTube. Yeah, I'm fortunate to have one of those distinctive names, so just search for me, you'll find me.
During this interview, is there something that I screwed up and completely, forgot to ask you? Because I got nerded out on gear and stuff.
I don't think so. You've done a pretty good job. I'll say one mistake is Michael Jackson never owned Happy Birthday.
Okay. All right.
It may have been that the publishing company that he owned or that he was part of owned it, but I've never heard him associated with it before. But that's that's nothing big. No, I don't think you've overlooked asking anything vital. So thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. So now I'm gonna go say happy birthday to my kids. I owe them each, a couple years worth of it, and I'll
sing it to them 9 times over.
Yeah, exactly. Well, what we'll do, Gordon, is we'll put the links in the show notes below. So if someone needs some help with, maybe some of their disclaimers, or hey, I need you to take a look at my website. What am I missing, or my YouTube, or whatever the case may be. So fellow deal makers in the audience, if you do deals online, if you're making and doing business online or creating content, I encourage you to connect, follow, listen into his episodes, and then take a look at his website. See what kind of things you might be missing that could maybe get you in business, have your podcast shut down, or any of the other crazy things that could happen that you just are not aware of. I just recently bought his book. Actually, shout out to your book. I bought your book.
The Podcast Blog and New Media Producers Legal Survival Guide. Yeah, we didn't mention that in the links. It's at podcastlawbook.com. Yeah. Everything is on that gordonfiremark.com page, so that's probably the place to go.
Perfect. I'll put that all in the show note thingies below. So fellow deal makers, as always, reach out to our guests, say thank you for being on the show. Thank you for sharing, your information. Connect with them, follow what they're doing, and find a way to do a deal with them. Purpose and mission of the shows, put deals and deal makers together. If you are working on something cool, a deal that you're looking for funding, if you're looking to acquire something, if you just want to talk about a deal, head on over to thedealscout.com, fill out a quick form, maybe get you on the show next. And I should probably add a privacy agreement, especially since they're filling out forms. So
indeed,
I'll be doing that indeed. All right, guys, have a great day. Talk to you all on the next episode. Cheers.